So what I want to show you next is using the callback function. A callback function is executed after the current animation effect has completed whatever it is that it's doing. In JavaScript, statements are executed line by default, and with animations, the next line of code can be run even though the animation is not completed. So sometimes that can cause errors. To prevent this, you can create a callback function, and the callback function is not called until after the animation is completely finished. So let's look at how we can do this. We're going to be working on the exact same file that we have been working on. All I've done, just to make it a little bit more simple for you to see in our jQuery statement, is I've removed all of the button related code. So if we look at this in the browser, here's our page, and if I click the buttons, they just don't do anything at this point. So the only thing that's happening is that all of the subsequent content that we were calling by clicking the buttons has been hidden. And you can certainly add this right on into the code that you have. I just wanted to concentrate on what it is that we were doing here, so I just got rid of it for this exercise. So what we're going to start by doing is we're going to show the behavior as it is without the callback function in place, so that you can see how it works by default. So I'm going to just go ahead and create a script that is going to be targeted by one of my buttons, and I'll just use the first button, the cocktail button. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell jQuery that I want to do that, and we're going to go ahead and, for this exercise, have this initiated by a click event, and then we'll pass on a function, and I'm going to go ahead and just close my function here. So what we're going to want to do is then tell it what it is that we want to have happen. So for our example here, let's just have the main content div fade out over a period of time. So I'm just going to go ahead and use fade out, and I'm going to pass on a parameter of 200 for this example. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to have jQuery issue an alert, and the alert message is going to be something like the content is now hidden. And I'm using double quotes because this is a string literal bit of information right here. So what we have here is we have, oh, I need my dot right here. Alright, so what we've written here is we have the cocktail button is going to be clicked, and when it's clicked, main content is going to fade out over a time frame of 200 milliseconds, which is pretty quick, and then in an alert, the content is now hidden will be issued. Alright, now that we've written this, let's go ahead and load it in our browser and take a look at what happens. I'm going to refresh my page, and I've just hidden the navigation bar and stuff like that in my browser so that you can see this a little bit easier. When I click the cocktail link, what we expect to have happen is we expect this to become hidden, and then the alert is going to show. So when I click this, you can see that the alert shows right away. The content is now hidden, and when I click OK, then the content actually hides. So it's actually executing this not in the order that we would initially expect it to go ahead and show it to us. We would think that the content would be hidden and then the alert would show, and obviously in this case it doesn't really make sense because it says the content is now hidden, and clearly the content is not hidden. It's not hidden until you click OK. So let's go ahead and let's try to augment this, and we'll use the callback function to be able to accomplish that. Back here in the browser, what we're going to do now is we're going to do the same initial thing. So we'll leave this, that the cocktail button is going to be clicked, and then it's going to run a function. Then we want main content to fade out, but here in our parameter we're going to augment the parameter by putting a comma and then typing function right here. So this is one of the special parameters. This is the callback function, and it is letting jQuery know that it needs to fade this out, and then it needs to run a function. So it has to finish this first and then run the function, and then the function is going to, and I need to put my open and curly brace there so that it knows that the function is going to be run, and we'll go ahead and we'll delete this part of the statement. This is like it's wrapping inside of the function. The function that we're using is an anonymous function at this point, and an anonymous function is just a function that is kind of defined in line. It is referred to as anonymous because it doesn't have a name at all, and when you have a function that you want to run from a particular location, sometimes anonymous functions are the best way to go. So we're going to go ahead and target the main content div. We want it to fade out, and we want it to fade out over this period of time, and a function is going to now be run, and the function is going to be an alert, and we'll just keep the same alert right here. And then we're going to need to just set one more set of closing curly brace bracket and semicolon sets right there. So remember, anytime you open a curly brace, you have to have an appropriate closing curly brace. Same thing with the parentheses. So all we've really done here is added a comma and the function into the fade out parameter, and then we've just kind of created the function on the fly within the parameter of fade out. So if we save our page and we come back to the browser, and I'll refresh my browser here, when I click Cocktails, Cocktails disappears first, and now the JavaScript alert is going to show up and say the content is now hidden. And if we want to actually slow this down a little bit, let's just change this to 1200. That'll slow it down about a second, and I'll refresh my page right here, and when I click Cocktails, this slowly fades away, and then the alert immediately shows up. So you can see how useful this is to be able to specify when you want a specific behavior to occur, or especially when you're chaining together multiple behaviors, to be able to control which one occurs first, which one occurs second, and so on and so forth. And you just kind of wrap any of your script, you can attach a callback function to it so that it is going to, instead of executing the statements line by line, and sometimes whatever's the faster statement will actually run. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to run in that particular order. If you use the callback function, you're going to force it to finish this animation first and then go on to the next set of instructions. So that's how you use it. Pretty easy.